Welcome, viewers, to our episode on Be Consciously Healthy with Dr. Maria Scanziano-Singh. And we've been talking about integrative medicine. As you know, Dr. Maria has just got a fellowship in integrative medicine. And if you saw the last episode, you'd have seen how complex and multi-layered this approach is. But, before we proceed, viewers, let me tell you, we are real people and we are addressing real people like yourselves and people who want to change, who want to live and be more conscious and be, healthier, have longer health spans, not just longer lifespans. And Dr. Maria is here to help us. Thank you, Dr. Maria, for taking the time out from your incredibly busy schedule. I know how busy you are to help out us common folk who are just tuning in from wherever we are. So also remember, friends, this is not medical advice, so do consult your physician, your own doctor, before you make any changes in your medications especially. But while listening to the last episode, Dr. Maria, I was just reminded of the idea of integral yoga. Here we are doing integral medicine, and there Sri Aurobindo and the mother and others were also conducting an experiment, and they called it integral yoga. And when I was listening to you, I saw how all the different levels of the human system or the human being were being addressed in your approach. For example, the physical, then the emotional or the vital, then the mental, then the psychic. By psychic, we mean all sorts of things, which are a part of our, more complicated, sometimes unconscious, uh, subterraneous mental makeup, as you said, childhood traumas, which might have got repressed. They're not even in the, conscious memory easily. And then eventually the spiritual, where everything is integrated and not divided. And it seemed to me that integrative medicine of the kind that sort of you actually live and breathe and practice and help people with seems to address all these different levels of who we are.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, it does. I'm completely aware of the the myriad of elements around and within. And, again, when we say outside and inside, it's really not. It's really not an outside inside. That's all a matter of communication and just location and geographics and so forth. It's really not an inside outside thing, because we are essentially one, because our environment becomes our own environments. Each one of us is part of a bigger, so we are part of a whole. And there's really no separation. Separation is more of a human mind separation. We've got to go supramental, beyond the mind, in this in this area of healing. We really have to go beyond the mind, which means we're exploring territory, or just being in territory, I should say, just being in the territory where we already are. We're there. It's recognizing it. Somehow we have been lost over the millennia in losing that sense of oneness. We have we have our ancestors who sensed it, who knew it, who were living in oneness, and somehow that oneness got all divided up into parts and pieces. So we end up in parts and pieces, and that's how life has turned into very materialistic parts and pieces, as opposed to what it really is. And we are not solid creatures. We aren't solid. Again, is just a formation, a human mind formation. It's a manifestation, and we give it the term solid, like a solid organ or a solid, we're solid. But when you go right down to the elemental, it's not solid. There's movement, there's constant movement of particulates and waves. And this kind of motion is going on constantly. And then we talk about in yoga stillness, and that really blows people's minds. The concept of a stillness. What does that mean, right? So, and again, we're not here to break that apart and analyze yoga, but just to bring in, invoke the yoga concept. Yoga means synthesis, and it's bringing things together as one. There's no real division of things. Things have, we've made boundaries and we manifest as looking like separate and everyone is separate, but we really aren't when it comes down to it. When we study it and we look at it very carefully, and because we have the tools to study it, because we have the means to look at cellular and microscopic nanoparticulate matter, we can see it and we know it's there, but what's behind it? What is really generating all that which is going on? And that's the mystery of life. In my profession, in the profession of the medical world, the healing world, I see it as a healing world. That's the way I look at it. Medicine is part of the healing. It's not that medicine equals healing. There should be that understanding, which there isn't. Most people just see it, I've got medicine and that's going to heal me. No, it's the universal energies when put in the right order, and we have the balance of all the energies within and around what we consider ourselves. Once that is in order, there is health, there's wellness, and we want that to continue on and on. And it can't happen if we have so many things to interfere, negative things, toxicants, chemicals, pathogenics, and they're pathogenic minds. There are minds that have been altered that are creating more pathologies. We want to take away these pathologic minds, and how do we cure the pathology, i.e. diseased minds? Minds are getting, corrupted every moment. Every time I turn around, there's some news of something strange happening in life. But we need to focus on making ourselves the best we can. And in the integrative approach, I try to have people come to a sort of a sense of who they really are, appreciate and love their being as a part of a grander being, and to not fear. I think trying to take the element of fear away is one of the most difficult things I have found, one of the most challenging things I've found.
Oh, yes, totally. I mean, the environment, everything that surrounds us, and the environment, so to speak, are so closely interconnected.
Yes.
And if the environment is so fearful, as you said, so anxious, in fact, panic stricken, disrupted, so disorderly, then it picks up things from the environment, which add to its anxiety, which add, to its dis-ease, and you said something really so important. I was struck by how, during that terrible time of the global pandemic of COVID, people had, towards the end of that period, had started talking about, you see, there was the so-called physical virus out there, right? This retrovirus, which used to lock inside our cells with its spike proteins, or however they, described it, and they had these wonderful diagrams of it and what it did to you and how it, entered through your nostrils and this and that. But there was also this mental virus, all this disinformation, altering people's minds, the tremendous pandemic of mental illness, and which hardly anybody really talked about or addressed, and therefore, I think that when we talk about health and disease and wellness and medicine, we obviously have to take into account all these different factors, rather than than focusing only on taking the magic pill or spending literally billions of dollars in finding, that silver bullet or that one little tiny molecule which is supposed to completely blast away whatever problem it is that we have. Whereas all our lives we're doing things which are destroying our bodies, destroying our environment, you know, completely, as it were, disrupting our natural systems. And another thing that struck me is you said that we live in a healing environment. We are a part of a healing world, a healing ecosystem, and if we are in harmony and balance with it, automatically, you know, as it were, we will be in sync with the healing energies. But if you're constantly at war within yourself and with the world outside, then you know what you're setting yourself up for. So it's wonderful to talk to you about your new certification, Dr. Maria. Congratulations once again. And then I suppose next week we can continue with our more specific topics. Last time we talked about stress. Maybe we'll talk about hormones, about you
Yes.
know the gut and how
Yes.
much it contributes. All these wonderful topics. Food. You've written a wonderful book on eating well. You have a recipe book. So there's so much to discuss, friends. And do join us in our subsequent podcasts and send in your comments if you want a specific topic discussed. But I'll turn it back over to you, Maria G, for your concluding comments on our, series on integrative medicine.
I would like to say that every physician take an integrative approach. I don't think there is a doubt in any rational mind that is out there that this would be the most, the most helpful approach, because again, in the reductionistic approach, that is just using synthetic chemicals and or cutting things out of the body or blasting things, that's not the way to handle the human body in the long run. In the short run, there might be something that has to be immediately addressed in terms of life saving, but most people have issues that may go on and continue on and on. So we have to learn how to have our folks recognize who they are, where this is coming from, where all of this on and on business is coming from, where did it start. Let's help others by using all the tools. That is, when we integrate as providers, we can help people a whole lot better. And I encourage any up and coming doctor, nurse practitioner, anyone to really take on this approach, and including our dentists and our veterinarians and anyone of those types who are dealing with human beings on a regular basis or animals on a regular basis, any living creatures. We need to take this approach, because the one-sided or the reductionistic approach, i.e. the conventional approach, is not enough. And I encourage you all to look into it that way.
Well said, Dr. Maria. And speaking on behalf of the seekers, not just the providers, so the seekers and learners, we should also, I think, try to, adopt this integrative approach to our own bodies and to our own, healing, should I say, our own healing journeys. We all need help from time to time. And if we also change, then the change becomes reciprocal. The providers also respond when we ask different kinds of questions, or sometimes even push back a little bit, if Suppose a person wants to just prescribe something to you which you're not entirely comfortable with, you can ask a question or two, you can read up yourself
Absolutely.
about these matters and look for, more natural ways to approach your own individual problem. And there's always help, because there are providers, there are, physicians of the highest caliber, like Dr. Maria, who are here to help. But once again, this is not medical advice. Please follow all the norms that have been laid down. Consult your doctors and physicians before you make any changes. So, with these words, thank you, Dr. Maria, for your precious words and for your time. And hope to see you soon, viewers. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, adieu, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.